It is 11 o'clock. Welcome back in. It's hour number 2 of three-man front, day 2 of the Masters going on over in Augusta, Georgia. We'll give you a leaderboard update coming up a little bit later in the program. We are live at Twin Peaks. Come on out and see us in Hoover. Another gorgeous day. They've already raised the side walls here at Twin Peaks, so we're getting a nice breeze. Feels really, really good. So come out to Hoover and join us here at Twin Peaks.
If you got automotive needs, there's only one place you should turn your attention to. That's the Garage in Pelham, thegaragein.pelham.com. Local owners from this area, they live here in the community. They've been in business for years, and when you call, you're going to speak to a very friendly staff member on site like Robert or Richie, who are listening right now. Hey, guys, hope you're doing well. Happy Friday. Also, they've got the AC checks going on. The warmer weather is here. It's only going to get hotter. They got the $40 off AC check coupon there at the homepage, thegarageandpelham.com. They got 4 new AC diagnostic service machines to handle the newest refrigerants. It's certainly worth the drive. It's conveniently located off 31 there in Pelham, but they regularly have people from all over Birmingham and the surrounding areas, Montgomery, in fact, Crane Hill, if you're familiar. They still bring their vehicles to be serviced because the Garage is the only people that they trust. 5-star rating across the board. Women need to feel comfortable when you go into the Garage. So, guys, your husband or your wife, your daughter, your significant other, they're not going to feel uncomfortable when they go in the Garage because they have talented professionals like Robert and Richie there to greet them when they meet them in that very clean lobby. Check them out, thegarageandpelham.com, thegarageandpelham.com. Always tell them Landrum from Jocks sent you.
Joining us now on the Higginbotham Hotline is Mike Rodak from Bama 247 as Alabama gets ready for their spring game A-Day coming up tomorrow at Bryant-Denny Stadium. Hey, Mike, I hope you're well on this Friday.
I'm doing well, guys.
All right, so I have to ask this question before we start talking football. I'm trying to put 2 and 2 together. You're an alum at Providence College. Rumor is Aiden Sherrill's about to have a conversation with Providence College.
Oh, no.
You cover the University of Alabama basketball team.
Red-handed.
I'm just asking, is there anything there?
I think Brian Hodgson probably has a better in than I do on that one.
Oh, yeah, you're a big-time alum.
That's what he told you to say,
You
Mike.
give a lot of money to that college.
How many how many bills were in that White Castle bag?
Yeah.
True story. I have never given $1 to my college because I feel like they took enough of my dollars when I was there.
I'm the same way about mine. Good job, Mike.
Yes.
Yeah, I kind of drew the line. I gave money to my high school. I've never given $1 to my college. They shake you down. Not just there, but a lot of places. But no, I mean with Sherrill, I think there's a lot of big time schools involved. I think it's one of those where I think it was just going to be tough for Alabama to kind of stay in that ballpark in terms of, competing for price. And there's been a lot of national reporting about how, some of the big men, the top big men in the portal are probably $5 million. The Kansas guy, I think, is right there. So I wouldn't be shocked if the number for Sherrill ends up being in that neighborhood. And if you're Alabama, that's like half your payroll. Can you really afford to do that? So, it's obviously a different game these days. It's a money game. And, Providence has money. I think sometimes people kind of, they see it as a small school. Well, the Big East schools that don't have football teams and they have rev share, most of that rev share money is going to basketball. And so that actually puts, the Big East schools at an advantage. And, they don't have to worry about paying football players. It's just, how much rev share money can you spend? And, the TV deal is smaller that the Big East gets, for their basketball from Fox than what, the SEC does. But you can take donations from alum, of Providence College, and they go to the athletic department, and you can just pay somebody directly through rev share. You don't even have to go through the whole NIL process and NIL Go and all of that. So it's a good job for Hodgson to be able to coach in the Big East. And I think you're kind of seeing it if they're truly in on Sherrill. They just got the G League guy last night, and they've gotten a few other guys. So that's kind of the new wave of the future is some of the Big East schools got some money to spend.
So you said that Mike, roughly, if he got $5 million, Aiden Terrell from Alabama, that'd be roughly Alabama's payroll. So $10 million, even if it's above that, 10 to 12. We've heard that for some other schools from this past season. How much does that need to increase? And this is just speculation, but would Nate Oates entertain paying a guy that much if it was available?
I think if it was available, yes. The thing with Alabama is obviously you only get so much rev share for men's basketball. I mean, you're probably talking in the range of $3 to $4 million in rev share coming in from Alabama, because they have to devote so much to football, and so then anything on top of that is NIL. And therefore, if you're playing the game honestly, which I think Alabama wants to do, then you have to do it through NIL Go, and it has to be legitimate, fair market value and all of that. So it's not as easy as snapping your fingers and saying we want to go higher. Even if the money exists somewhere, you gotta launder it essentially. I mean, you gotta get it through NIL Go, get it through the College Sports Commission. So it's complicated. And I think if you're Nate Oates, for a big man, I think Sherrell is important, yes, but this is still an offense that's predicated on guard play and shooting and athleticism, and you don't have a lot of that right now because you've lost a lot with LeBaron Philon going to the draft and Terrell Wrightsell and Houston Millett leaving, and you don't know what Nathan Holloway's situation is going to be. So it's kind of hard to throw all your eggs in the basket on a big man if you know that you have to go out and spend on some guards and be able to put together a team of 12-ish players and not spend all your money on one guy.
Mike, have you heard anything, because this was the big topic of conversation obviously during the season, and international players for Nate Oates and the basketball team, is that a route that they are considering going down? Have you heard that they're already going down that path? Because maybe if, like you're mentioning, it's $4 to $5 million for one of these elite big men, is it more feasible to go the international route and try to find somebody that's maybe a little bit of an unknown and get them to come into the program and hope that you can develop them?
Yeah, I think you would have to kind of find a diamond in the rough type of guy, because if it's an established, let's say EuroLeague or, one of those, several leagues over there, they're already making pretty good money. And so if you're going to get them over here, you kind of got to pay on top of that. So I haven't heard any specific names, but, Nate Oates has talked about, I think you mentioned the 4 Final Four teams, and all of them had an international player or multiple on their roster, especially like a team like Illinois that was really built on that. And I think he said we have to do a better job of that, was his quote last week. So I wouldn't be shocked if they try to go over there. It really hasn't been part of their strategy since he's been here. Alex Chiku from Paris was the only one, but he really wasn't a pro player. It's been something that's happened in college basketball. It's not like it's a new thing. I think sometimes people kind of confuse that all these international European players are all of a sudden coming over, and that wasn't the case before. I mean, like you said, Providence College, I was there, or I was a fan 20 years ago. They had multiple international pros on their roster back then. So it's not a new invention, but I think you're getting a higher caliber player coming over because, the money is better now. Is Alabama in a position to do that? I don't know. I haven't heard anything specific on that, but would it surprise me if they kind of try to take a swing on a couple guys internationally, or maybe one that's a little bit more under the radar? That wouldn't shock me.
Mike Rodak, Bama 247, joins us every Friday here on Three Man in Front as we're talking basketball. Well, let's pivot now to the big game in Tuscaloosa tomorrow. A-Day will be the third A-Day for Kalen DeBoer, the head man at the University of Alabama. It's crazy how fast this time has gone by. Just some of the storylines that you have picked up on the last couple of weeks of spring practice, and I know the fans are going to get their first opportunity to look at the team tomorrow. What will be the big takeaways, you think, from the fans from what they see tomorrow?
Well, it's a nice day. I think that's kind of the good news, is that it's beautiful weather. I think people will really come out to the stadium and enjoy kind of the vibes, if you will. I don't think it's going to be A-Day as people kind of remember it, pre-Kalen DeBoer. That was Nick Saban splitting Alabama into 2 teams, and it was crimson and white, and it was very, I don't say competitive, but it was like you could kind of keep track of the game because there's two teams. But this, from everything that they've kind of said, is going to be more like a practice in terms of a scrimmage. It's going to be offense versus defense. They're going to run about 100 plays of that, but it's not going to be clear and obvious, like here's a Crimson team, here's a white team. Keelan Russell's on one team, Austin Mack's on the other. So it's not going to be as something if you're sitting in the stands. Like I don't think it's going to be as easy to follow. But I think you're just going out there and looking at the offense and how does it look versus the defense and how does that look. So, it's not on TV. It's not something that even us in the stands, and they're doing press box renovations. So we're actually going to be sitting in the stands, and we're not allowed to take video. We're not allowed to take photos. I don't know how much is going to get out in terms of, the actual scenery of it. But again, I think it's going to be a nice day. I think people will have a chance to see Austin Mack throw passes in the live drill. They'll have a chance to see Keelan Russell throw passes. But I don't know if it's going to be quite what people remember A-Day being.
Are you allowed to bring binoculars, at least, to watch the action?
I always do. Yeah.
Okay.
So if somebody, hopefully it's not like the Alabama courtrooms that, I've been in this year where you can only bring your legal pad and you can't even have a laptop or a phone. I would hope that we're able to have electronic devices. But here's the thing. Fans, there's going to be how many people in the stands? I think fans have phones and they can take video and photos. And
I don't understand that. Why are fans able to do that, but you, a credentialed member of the media, can't do the same?
I've
Get
run
your
into this over
brother-in-law
the
to
years.
go in the stadium with his phone and film everything for you.
Or just go without your credential, Mike. Just sit in the stands.
It was always like the argument, when I covered the NFL, because training camp, fans are at training camp in the NFL, but the media can't take video during training camp. And maybe that was easier to enforce 10 or 15, 20 years ago when fans didn't really have the social media presence that they do now. But now they do. And it's interesting. And then you kind of get into the argument of, well, if, fans are just posting on social media and you are too, how does it make you any different than a fan? And I don't know. There's a whole lot of different things going on there. But here's the thing. What's stopping East Carolina, who's Alabama's first opponent of the season, from sending someone in a Ryan Williams jersey and sitting in the stands and taking video? Like, is that enforceable? Like, is anybody going to find out if that happens? I don't know. So I'll end my rant, but I'll say, we're not going to be able to take videos or send anything out to social media tomorrow as media.
So tomorrow, as you're squinting, trying to make out who is doing what particular newcomers, either via the transfer portal or the high school ranks, are you most concentrating on?
I think the defensive line is kind of where I want to see. And, obviously there's been a lot of positive reviews about Devin Tompkins coming in from USC, and he can kind of play inside and outside on the defensive line, and Terrence Green as well from Oregon, a defensive tackle, and Kedrick Bingley-Jones is another one. So, Desmond Umazulu from South Carolina. So there's a lot of new faces along the defensive front, and I kind of want to see how they fare against a lot of new faces along the offensive line as well. When you talk about potentially Ethan Fields at left guard from Ole Miss and Javen James at right tackle from Mississippi State will be the two that I think will have a chance to get some good first-team reps and kind of see how those guys go against each other and see where things fall. But, obviously I think a lot of people are going to be focused on, the quarterback play. And I think, Noah Rogers at wide receiver is another one people are probably going to notice. Number 5, replacing Jeremy Bernard in that number. And the NC State transfer, I think, has had a pretty good spring. So probably another guy that people notice too.
Well, Mike, that was a good segue because I wanted to ask you about the middle of the defense actually and the linebackers because, Alabama fans over the last few years, you got very comfortable with Deontay Lawson and Justin Jefferson, some of these guys that have been around the program for a long time. And now you're going to have new faces there. So what can you kind of tell us before the spring game? I know Caleb Woodson, he came over, and Kalen DeBoer mentioned him as somebody that almost kind of filled that captain role early on coming over from Virginia Tech. But you got QB Reese, Luke Metz, a couple other younger guys finally getting an opportunity. What can you tell us about that linebacker core right now?
Yeah, even beyond that, I think, Caden Jones, is a junior but hasn't played a whole lot, is another option. I think, Abdul Sanders, who was a freshman last year, there's a lot of different guys I think competing for that second spot next to Woodson, and you can even say the third spot because they've typically rotated through three guys at inside linebacker. So, Woodson's your clear veteran. I think he's the guy that is probably going to wear the helmet, at the radio, and he's a little bit smaller. I think if you're talking about replacing different players, he's probably closer to a Justin Jefferson than he is a Deontay Lawson. QB Reese is a pretty, smaller linebacker as well. Caden Jones is probably a little bit bigger. So, you got some different options there. A lot of inexperience, beyond Caleb Woodson, but it'd be interesting to see kind of who gets those first team reps and how they divvy things up. Is it more of just one guy? Is it, kind of rotating through? That is another position that I think we'll be keeping an eye on as well.
How about the offensive line? Will that be somewhat more set, in your opinion, once things conclude this spring?
I think they probably would like to have a little bit more continuity and not be rotating through, like they did really until the end of last season. I think that's kind of where the whole Ryan Grubb, declaring Jackson Lloyd to starter at left tackle probably comes from. And, they don't have a ton of options at left tackle either. So I think, Lloyd at left tackle, I think Rayson Delgado at center is probably your guy, the Cal Poly transfer. And it's just a matter of where you want to play Michael Carroll. Is it right guard, which he's done some this spring? Is it right tackle, where he was last year? If you play him at guard, then you allow yourselves to start Javen James, the Mississippi State transfer, at right tackle. That's kind of different options they have there. And then the left guard spot, you got, Ethan Fields coming in from Ole Miss. You got Mal Waldrop, who was here last year. And then I think William Sanders is probably the guy that, once he gets back, I think he had back surgery, before the spring. Once he's back healthy, is probably, the favorite, if you will, to start at left guard. We'll have to see what happens there.
That is Mike Rodak from Bama 247. Mike, always appreciate your time. We'll talk to you again next Friday, kind of wrapping things up for spring and also talking more college basketball transfer portal. Mike, always a pleasure. Have a good weekend.
You got it, guys. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That's Mike Rodak from Bama 247. He joined us on the Higginbotham hotline. All of our guests join us on that hotline. You deserve solutions that are built for you. Higginbotham is your one-source solution for insurance, financial, and HR services. We know your foundation and waterproofing specialist is Deep South Construction Pros. Deep South is a family-owned company with real southern roots. I've had multiple people reach out to me to get the website, which is deepsouthconstructionpros.com, because if you're dealing with foundation issues or moisture problems, Deep South Construction Pros, they are the experts. Foundation repair and waterproofing, that is the backbone of what they do. They do it every single day, from cracks and wood damage to crawl space, moisture, and mold. Their trained crews fix the problem at the source. The owners are proud Alabama locals who still call this place home, and they're committed to serving families across Alabama and Tennessee. DeepSouthConstructionPros.com, that is the website. That's the website. Deep South Construction Pros, it's your home, their commitment, because if it's your home, it matters to them. That is Deep South Construction Pros. Coming up at the bottom of the hour, head football coach of the Auburn Tigers, Alex Golesh, scheduled to be with us. Keep it tuned right here at Jock's 3-Man Front.
Welcome back. Three-man front. We're live at Twin Peaks in Hoover. We got day 2 of the Masters, round 2 underway. Yesterday, Sam Burns, the pride of LSU, and Rory McIlroy into the day tied at the top of the leaderboard at 5 under par. So far today, you got golfers that are out on the course. One of the youngsters that Doug Bell was talking about, I'm trying to remember his first name. It might have been Ryan, but last name Goddard. He is 2 under par through 9 today. Tied for 7th. Projected cut line somewhere around +1, +2, Pat. That's what it looks like.
Yes.
Right now, but you still got other notable golfers getting ready to tee off. We'll keep you updated as we continue live here from Twin Peaks. Well, the summer weather is going to be here before you know it, but it's already spring, and you're noticing things outside like the green blades of grass that are coming up through the ground, but also you're noticing those insects that got to go away during the cold, frigid months. Well, they're back. Well, they've got a place in God's ecosystem. I tell you that all the time. They just don't belong on your kids. They don't belong on you, your wife, or inside of your home. Keep your home protected with our friends at Stark Exterminators. Family-owned for over 62 years. Great old business raised right here in the South. They will take care of you. 100% of your satisfaction is guaranteed. It's really simple. 855-STARK now or go to StarkExterminators.com. When you do so, one of their talented team members will come out to your home and or your place of business and look at any problems that need to be addressed right away. They'll address those, take care of them. But look at any problems that could come up down the road. Once again, call today for the free home or business pest inspection, 855-STARK now, or go to StarkExterminators.com. When you do so, always tell them Landrum from Jock sent you.
So you just heard from Mike Rodak some of the things that he'll be looking at tomorrow during a day game. He mentioned, we were kind of talking earlier about Ty Simpson. He'll be back at the capstone tomorrow as he will have his hands and feet forever enshrined around Denny Chimes as one of the team captains. I was sitting this morning and I was looking at some more NFL draft information. We're a few weeks away from that being conducted there in Pittsburgh. And Matt Miller, who is an ESPN draft analyst, he said the following about Ty Simpson. He says, I'm still struggling to find a team for Alabama quarterback Ty Simpson in round 1. I'm talking to sources throughout the league. You often hear teams suggest someone might take him, but no one is convinced on who that might be. Even the idea of the Cardinals trading back into round 1 was met with skepticism from one scouting director I spoke to. The quote was, why give up draft picks to jump into round 1 when the Jets didn't like him enough at number 2 or number 16 to take him? End of quote. A surprise team could emerge as a landing spot for Simpson, wrote Matt Miller, but the more likely reality is he is still on the board in round 2.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see what the Jets do at number 16. He's not going number 2, but, I mean, that was a team. They came to Tuscaloosa. They wined and dined him. They have done extensive amounts of research on Ty Simpson, and we know they certainly need a quarterback of the future because they can say whatever they want. Geno Smith is not the answer, just like he wasn't the answer for Pete Carroll and the Raiders last year. It's going to be interesting, though, because the Cardinals are another team that's been mentioned. But, you just wonder with, do the Steelers get antsy? Does one of these teams that's, maybe looking at another guy that gets taken ahead of them, and then they go, all right, well, we'll take Ty Simpson here. He's also announced yesterday that he is going to be attending the NFL draft in Pittsburgh. There he will be in the green room for round 1. I have to imagine. Now, we've seen plenty of examples. I mean, Will Levis a couple years ago, maybe the most recent of guys that did that and didn't get selected, but I still have to maintain that you would at least think you're getting some sort of intel that would lead you to believe it's worth being in that situation and being there in person for round 1. Not that that's a guarantee. But
one would think so, but we've seen a lot of disappointed guys that we've said the same thing about.
Yeah.
Going up there, Jalen Milroe, would that have been one?
Was he in the green room last year? I think he was.
I think he was too.
That's wild.
But I just go back to this. I know it's all based on fit and need, but thinking about some of the other quarterbacks in the past that have been drafted in the first round, and maybe this hurts this argument, and this hurts Ty Simpson this year. I just can't imagine the team, all of those teams and all of those picks passing Ty Simpson up.
Well, and I
because you only have so many quarterbacks.
Correct, and I always fall back to somebody will fall in love with a quarterback and take them maybe higher than other teams would, And I have to imagine that Ty Simpson is one of those guys where, I mean, we've talked a lot about it. In terms of the intangibles, all the things that you would want in a quarterback, take away, what they think he could do on the field.
There's no baggage there.
No, and he's a coach's kid. He's loyal, which I have to imagine is incredibly attractive to teams in this day and age of college athletics. He's a great leader, played through injury. Like, you have to imagine there's so many things, unless there was some sort of a nagging injury or something that, people are still a little uncertain about. I find it hard to believe that if I'm putting money on, I think he will get taken in the first round.
That's where my
I think
money's
it'll be
going.
maybe in the back half, obviously, but yeah, I find it hard to believe that he would be there on day 2. And if he is there on day 2, he will be taken very quickly.
And listen, this has nothing to do with Ty. I'm a strict numbers guy, and you look at historically, Kenny Pickett was the only quarterback taken. What was that, 2022?
Doesn't happen often.
But you have to go back to like 1996-97 when there were no quarterbacks taken in those drafts. I just find a hard time believing on a league that depends so much on that position that there will not be somebody that will take another quarterback. Now, listen, they might overlook Ty Simpson. They might go another route.
Maybe.
But I just have a hard time believing that there's only going to be one quarterback.
Garrett Nussmeier, round 1. Stranger things have happened.
All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, Coach Alex Golesh will join the program here on Three Man Front.
Welcome back in. It's three-man front. It is day 2 here at Twin Peaks in Hoover. We got round 2 of the Masters going on. We'll keep you up to date on the leaderboard, but Sam Burns, as well as last year's champion Rory McIlroy, at the top of the leaderboard at 5 under par. It is our honor to welcome in the new head football coach of the Auburn Tigers, Coach Alex Golesh, and he joins us here on three-man front. Coach, first of all, officially, welcome to the state of Alabama. I know that you've been here but we're really glad to have you on the show, Landrum, Pat, and Conrad.
Well, I appreciate y'all having me on.
Coach, I have to ask you, because you've been outspoken about it, and I've seen it in print, and I've heard a couple of interviews, but you talked about when you arrived there on the Plains, finding a broken locker room. What did you find in that locker room, and how does one go about repairing one?
Yeah, it was a unique couple of days. Just getting perspective from everybody. And I think my experience of going through it before, there's probably an expectation of what it's going to sound like or what it's going to look like, but it was unlike anything that I had really experienced, in the sense that every one of these kids loved Auburn. They loved what this community is. They loved the support that they get. And every single one of them, you asked, and I said this, and I mean it wholeheartedly. Every single one of these guys said, man, I love Auburn. You're like, well, why do you love Auburn? Well, it's the people. And so you knew there was something unique here. I'd always heard there was something unique here. And then you got to dig to what the heck is really going on. And I think there was just such a frustration with, it certainly felt like two different sides of the ball. There was a frustration with not winning, and really uniquely, again, a really eager group of kids that wanted direction on how do we actually get there. And so obviously you had to go make some choices. The kids had to go make choices. And I just chose to be really upfront and honest with them as we went through the process. And I think we handled it the right way, in the sense that we got a group of young men here that one, continue to love Auburn, but two, want to be here and want to be a part of the change to get this program back to where they expect. And that comes with a lot of responsibility, but they're an eager group to want to do it.
Coach, I am curious in regards to your defense coordinator, DJ Durkin, someone that obviously knows the Southeastern Conference, knows the Auburn family, knows the program and the conference as a whole. How important was that for you to get with him and to see if he was going to be a fit not only for you and your staff, but for the fact that he has been at Auburn and around the Southeastern Conference?
Yeah. I think unique again. So I've known DJ since college, and we have a bunch of mutual friends. We've spent time together outside of football, and had conversations leading up to this. Certainly over the years, and then in the hours leading up to it. It was going to take some time to sit down and really work through such a unique situation. Right, here's a guy that obviously is one of the top defensive coordinators in the country. And I would tell you, going up against it here for the last 10 days in practice, I would tell you the best in the country at what they do, how they do it. But just the situation of, man, he's coming off of the highest of highs and then the lowest of lows. And we meet the day after the loss here in the Iron Bowl, and the emotions that he had been through and what his family had been through. That conversation was a really frank and honest one. I hadn't slept in about 48 hours, and he hadn't slept in about probably 6 weeks. And so you were going to get the honest of honest on both sides. And he's such a pro that it was going to be really important for him that the relationship is right. And it was going to obviously be critical for me to make sure that the relationship could be right. And when you know who the human is, you know who the person is. And again, unique, not just watching him from afar. I coached against him the last time I was in this league. And I would tell you, there's probably no better compliment in our profession than when you coach against somebody, what their kids play like. And so after a long conversation and honestly some thought on my end of, man, could this work? Will it work? And it can't be a deal where we'll wait and see, because you had to make a decision on, you get one shot to do this thing the right way. And I would tell you 4.5 months in, it was certainly the right decision on both ends. I've really enjoyed working with him, what he's been able to continue to do for us defensively and as a staff. Like I said, just a pro's pro and an incredible assistant coach in the sense that he'll speak up when he needs to, but but he works incredibly hard to make sure his side of the ball is elite.
Coach, speaking of people that love Auburn and know what it's like to have success there in the program, I think it's really cool. I've seen recently you had Cam Newton down there talking with the guys. I believe Derek Brown was there yesterday or earlier this week, taking some time out of his busy schedule. What does it mean to you as well as to the players to have some of those guys come back and embrace you as the new head coach and try to share their experience into this new team?
Yeah, I think it's critical. You're talking about a place that is historically one of the premier elite programs in college football, and for these guys, again, it's a different time in college football right now. There's certainly about half of our team that's from the state of Alabama or Georgia, so they've grown up around it, and then there's another half that isn't, and that's just kind of the nature of the beast right now with what the transfer portal is and what we had to do in year one to get a team put together, where some of these guys don't really know. And I think the more of these guys that come back and our players understanding, one, their story, but two, what they were here to build. I think anytime you understand that you're standing on the shoulders of somebody else, that this program was elite before you got here, and your job is to pay it back and make it that again. I think when you have a purpose for what you're doing and understanding that there are people that wore the same exact uniform as you, it comes with a little bit more, umph maybe than anything I could ever tell them when they hear it out of the mouth of a Takeo Spikes, of a Cam Newton, of a name them, like you said, DB was here, like how cool it was to have him at practice yesterday, and there's so many more that have come back and just shared their stories. I think it resonates on a way, way higher level than anything I could ever tell them.
Auburn head coach Alex Golesh joining us on three-man front and joining us on the Higginbotham Hotline. Coach, you just mentioned the portal. No spring portal this year for college football. I realize that every coach in the country may answer this differently. I also realize, Coach, that maybe this time next year you may answer this differently. But at least for now, no spring portal in your instance at Auburn. More of a blessing this spring or more of a curse?
Man, that's a great question. I think in some ways you could certainly see it as a curse. You're able to go through 15 practices and really see some spots where you're like, man, this would be great to get some immediate help here. And so a curse in some ways. On the other side of it, I actually can finish spring football and have real exit meetings with guys that you could be honest with them with what they need to get right throughout the summer or continue to keep right throughout the summer. And I can then actually go and maybe sleep at some point to where I'm not worried about getting a phone call at 1 a.m. about somebody going in the portal. So if you're talking about like mental and physical health, it's definitely a blessing. If you're talking about being able to make some things right that maybe aren't exactly where you want them to be, then maybe a curse. So it just depends what you value. I probably value the football part of it a little bit more, but I'll also take the sleep at some point.
Well, Coach, you've got 10 practices under your belt for this spring session for Auburn football. Tell us about what sides of the ball excite you and what are some areas that you want to maybe see kind of get firmed up before you guys have A-Day coming up next week.
Yeah, I think as a whole, I think we're still not at the standard where we got to be in terms of how we truly work every single day. We've gotten better. I think when people say they've gotten better, it's probably a little bit of a cop-out too. So we have gotten better in the sense of how we practice, how intentional we are, drill to drill, rep to rep, the importance of every single day and taking advantage of every single moment. I know it sounds a little bit like coach talk, but getting our process within this building right, I would tell you we are at about 50%, which is just good enough to get our asses beat here in the fall. So we're not where we want to be by any means, just collectively in terms of truly how we work every single day. On the flip side of it, there have been some guys that have taken monumental steps and have certainly grown within the program in a big way. But, the easy answer is to say that defensively, you're replacing way less guys, and you are in year 3 of a system. So some of these guys in year 3, some in year 2, but naturally you're able to make more growth when you know what the heck is going on from an X's and O's standpoint. Offensively, it's been a process to get, there's a handful of guys that understand the system and understand the scheme simply because they've been in it. And it's been catching up the rest of the guys that haven't. And so I would tell you, like, our biggest growth has got to continue to come at the receiver position. It's got to continue to come at the offensive line position. It's got to continue to come in the secondary. But as a whole, we got to continue to work every single day to be the best version of us in every aspect, not just on the field, but truly every single aspect from a nutrition side, a strength side, and we're not where we want to be there.
Coach, you know what it takes with your previous experience in the conference at Tennessee. You know what it takes to play quarterback at a high level here in the SEC. I know you mentioned after the scrimmage the other day about how with Byron Brown, he's not really live right now, right? You want to protect him, and some of his strengths are what he can do with his legs. So for people that maybe aren't familiar with what he did at USF, one of the best quarterbacks in the country, now coming to Auburn, can you speak a little bit about what he brings to the quarterback position and just how dynamic he can really be when the bullets are flying this fall?
Yeah, I think you hit it on the head. Byram, at his best, doesn't have an orange jersey on, and he can create in so many different ways. I think Byram has grown so much as a thrower of the football. His natural comfort zone is to create with his feet, and he is not just a running quarterback. He over the years has become, honestly, one of the best runners with the football. Like, he's got true natural ability to run the ball in a unique way, which creates a whole plethora of issues for a defense in terms of prep. In practice, he is obviously protected and doesn't get to do that. We tend to quick whistle a lot. So it truly will be game one for even our guys here to see what he truly is. But a young man that's so elite and high-end in his process, how he goes about his business is as close to a pro as you'll ever see. He's really grown as a leader. He's trying to continue to grow as a leader as he continues to develop relationships in the building. But he's become a very complete quarterback. He was obviously the most complete quarterback in the country a year ago in terms of statistically. But he's also got a chip on his shoulder, man. Like, that's the part that I'm so excited about for him and our team is he did it in the American Conference, which you can say what you want, like, it ain't the SEC. And he knows he's got a lot to prove. The greatest thing about him is that he builds his own confidence through his preparation, which is exactly what you want your program to be. And he's excited to just go put the normal jersey on and let people go see him play.
Coach, since you arrived at Auburn, and it's not just been reaction from Auburn fans, it's been fans across the board that listen to our program that are very familiar with this state, and labeling you as a tireless worker, no stone unturned, the attention to detail. Your work ethic has certainly gotten everyone's attention in this state, but there's got to be a time for Coach Alex Golesh to relax. I know that your wife is a really good golfer. You said that you're not very good at it. How does Coach Alex Golesh relax?
Man, you know what? I love spending time with my family. I enjoy my kids. I always joke in this profession, there's a lot of people that love their families. I actually like my family. So my little man loves to fish. And so at some point here, we'll get out and fish a little bit. But I like just hanging out with them, man. I like to travel. I like seeing different parts of the country, different parts of the world. I'm intrigued by that. But honestly, at home, fireplace on and playing catch with my son or shooting hoops with my daughter, that's how I'm pretty simple in that regard. I am a foodie, and so I love going out to eat. I love cooking. Cody Burns told me last time we were in Birmingham that Birmingham is like one of the best food towns in the country. I couldn't believe him, but I'm looking for somebody to co-sign that and then invite me to a good meal.
We know plenty of places, Coach. You're invited anytime. Well, look, Coach, we know that you're very busy. Thank you for taking time. Welcome to the state of Alabama. Wish you nothing but success, and hopefully we'll catch up with you down the road.
I appreciate it, guys. I appreciate you having me on, and War Damn Eagle.
Hey, thank you, Coach. That is Coach Alex Golesh. Man, solid. So solid. Joining us here on Three Man Front and joining us on the Higginbotham Hotline. We'll continue live from Twin Peaks. We'll take away some of the things that Coach Golesh just told us and get you updated on that Masters leaderboard. We're live from Twin Peaks in Hoover on a Friday.
We're back here live at Twin Peaks in Hoover. Nice crowd is swelling here at Twin Peaks as the golf continues to heat up over in Augusta, Georgia. We'll give you a leaderboard update momentarily, but just cannot say enough about, man, what a great interview with Alex Golesh, the head football coach of the Auburn Tigers. If you missed that interview, you need to go back and download the Three-Man Front podcast because, guys, that was as good as it gets. I mean, John Summerall was outstanding a couple weeks ago, but, man, you can tell that Alex Golesh and the Auburn family is going to, if you have not already fallen in love with him, I think folks will be doing back handsprings based on the way that he communicates and the way that he's going to try to run this football team.
Yeah, it seems like he's detail-oriented, and Alex Golesh, it feels like he's got the pulse on his football team, on his locker room, and if, the reputation, I think it's real and it's deserved that Alex Golesh is everywhere in that program and everywhere in that building. And I am stopping short of making the comparison to someone else who coached in the state and their personality, but Auburn hasn't had that in the last couple of coaches.
You're absolutely right.
Well, we were talking about it in the break, and he's just a guy that gets it in multiple different ways. And having experience being in the SEC, being at Tennessee, and having the success he did as the OC, but now coming here, it's somebody that you can tell they know what the fan base want, and he's not shying away from it, right? He understands that Auburn has not been up to par with what they expect the last couple of years, and he's expected to turn that around, and that takes a special kind of person to do that, and he seems like he's well aware of that.
And it's a guy that I think both of you would agree. He said, I'm grateful for the opportunity. You only get one shot at this. Now, Hugh Freeze, he would talk about being grateful. He and Jill were grateful that Auburn made the phone call and he got to come and coach in the SEC in a place like Auburn. But didn't exactly translate through his actions.
No.
It does seem like Alex Golesh is genuinely grateful, and he's going to make the most of this opportunity.
Well, not to mention the fact that anytime you take over a position, you would be smart enough to look at the previous regime and say, okay, what did they do right? What did they do wrong? And it didn't take much, whether it's on ESPN.com or AuburnUndercover.com, to find out that his predecessor liked to play a lot of golf, and he wasn't detail-oriented, and he was a televangelist.
Yeah.
And that's what he talked about all the time. So, now you got a football coach. And I've said it multiple times that I've been on the Feinbaum show. The biggest thing that I have been the most impressed with Alex Golesh is a football coach. He is not trying to sell you something. He wants to sell W's and L's. That's what he's going to talk about. Unfortunately for Auburn, the previous two coaches, they were all about other things as opposed to what it seems like Alex Golesh is focused on, which is W's.
You don't have to worry about what his priorities. You know what his priorities are. It's winning football games. Absolutely.
And going back and reading the interview that he had, and he was talking about some of those player interviews and talking about the offense, and then talking to the defense, and the defense saying, yeah, the offense sucks. They can't get the quarterback figured out. And then the offense going, everybody says we suck. Everybody tells us how bad we are. That's what he inherited.
Yeah.
And how much of that was going on the past two seasons? Because we always wondered watching the Auburn defense, and how are they still getting along? Well, apparently they weren't.
And not to mention the fact his answer on DJ Durkin was as honest as you're ever going to hear a football coach.
You're right.
About the things
100%.
that was going on. Coming up next, we'll get our Braves weekly update from the Braves Radio Network's Barrett Salee. That's next on Three Man Front.